Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to today's webinar, which is titled Linear Tape File System, Setting Your Videos and Data Free Now and for the Future. This is Christina Clapp from Digital Video Magazine. I'm here with Bruce Master, who is the Senior Program Manager, IBM Data Protection and Retention Systems, the LTO program, and Laura Laredo, who is the Product Marketing Manager, Nearline Storage, Hewlett-Packard, the LTO program, and Mark Pastor, who is the Strategic Business Manager, Disk and Automation Quantum, the LTO program. Mark will be joining us for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So today we'll be talking about LTO-5 tape storage technology using the Linear Tape File System, LTFS. The Linear Tape File System works in conjunction with LTO Generation 5 tape technology, sets a new standard for ease of use and portability for data tape storage. Over the next hour, you'll learn how LTF can make accessing videos and data on an LTO-5 tape easy and intuitive as using a USB flash drive. So our presenters are going to explain about LTFS, how it works, what LTFS supported offerings are available. They'll also cover why LTO tape is on the hot list for storage, share some LTO user stories, and detail how you can start using LTFS yourself. So let's meet our presenters, Bruce and Laura. Bruce Master is an IBM Senior Program Manager for Worldwide Data Protection and Retention Systems Marketing. He's located at the IBM Storage Solutions Development Lab in Tucson, Arizona. Bruce is a graduate of Arizona State University in business, and after several years of management experience in the retail industry, he joined the General Systems Division of IBM in 1977. Over the span of Bruce's IBM career, he's worked in system sales, technical and business recruiting, employee education, community relations, systems engineering, and storage product marketing. Laura Laredo is an HP Lifecycle Product Manager for Worldwide LTO Tape Marketing. She's located in the HP Nearline Development Lab in Bristol in the United Kingdom. Laura is a computer engineering graduate of the University of Oviedo in Spain and holds an MBA in technology management. Laura joined HP in 1995 and has worked in the R&D engineering group on the development of LTO technology since its conception, starting as a firmware engineer, and in recent years she has moved to product marketing, where she's now responsible for worldwide HP LTO products and the LTO program. So welcome, everyone. So first we'll hear from Bruce, followed by Laura, and after their presentations, Bruce, Laura, and Mark will all be able to answer your questions. You can submit your questions at any time throughout the webinar by clicking on the Submit Question tab at the bottom of your screen. You can also download a PDF of the presentation by clicking on the icon in the lower portion of your browser. And then after we conclude, the webinar will be archived and available online at creativeplanetnetwork.com. Okay, so let's get started. Bruce.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Christina.
Welcome.
Well, good day to you all, and welcome, and thank you for joining this LTO program session, where you will learn how to set your videos and data free now and for the future using LTO technology and the amazing Linear Tape File System. Now, again, my name is Bruce Master. I'm from IBM, and I'm joined by Laura Laredo, from HP, and she'll be presenting part of the session, and also Mark Pastor from Quantum, and he'll be part of our Q&A session after the presentation. But I wanted to say that together we represent the LTO program, a.k.a. Consortium. We develop the specifications for the LTO technology, and we make those available to the public as an open standard. So let's take a look now at the agenda, which you see on your screen now, and see what we're going to cover today. We'll actually be looking at the world of LTFS, what it is, the key benefits. Take a close look at how does it work? What are the underworkings of LTFS? What's the magic? We'll discuss why tape is emerging as the hot storage item for this decade, and we'll review vendors that are offering LTFS-supported solutions, those solutions that are enabled by LTFS. We'll look at a few LTFS user stories, some exciting occurrences of users and their stories on how they're benefiting from the use of LTFS. And then we'll review what some of the experts have been saying about LTO technology and the linear tape file system. Then we'll discuss how you can get started if you're interested in using LTO tape and LTFS, what you need to do to make it all happen. So let's now turn to the next page, and we'll see exactly what is the linear tape file system. Okay, well, the LTFS standalone drive software specification was adopted by the LTO program in April 2010. It's an open standard specification. The spec doc is posted at the ultrium.com website, and it can be downloaded there for anyone to view and go on to develop any solutions that they like with it. Until LTFS, a user needed proprietary backup software to utilize tape, and then needed that same software to read that tape. This dependency caused some ease-of-use issues, but now with LTFS, tape can be as easy to use as a USB memory stick. The software for a standalone drive can be downloaded for free, and when a tape is formatted with LTFS, it creates a self-describing tape. That is, the tape contents can be viewed in a directory tree with your operating system browser, thereby describing what is on the tape. And we'll talk more about that self-describing aspect in a few minutes. LTO Generation 5 tape has the capability to create two partitions on the LTO 5 tape media, an index and metadata, and then store in one partition, and then it stores the content files in the second large partition. The tape drive and its contents appear in the operating system browser as a drive letter or folder. In addition, LTFS formatted cartridges can be interchanged between vendors. So let's now examine the key requirements on the next slide. So for the media and entertainment industry, for broadcasters, cable, TV, movie production, LTFS can be used to store any type of file. So for this industry, the archives are getting huge, especially with the advent of HD, 3D, and beyond. I understand that the footage for the movie Avatar created 4 petabytes of content. These rich media assets are the lifeblood of an organization and must be protected today and for future repurposing and monetization. The need for an open tape format then with key characteristics became paramount. So a tape with no application dependencies, a format that is self-describing, again, self-describing meaning to be able to view the contents of a tape in the operating system browser by simply mounting the tape in the drive, and the ability to transport the tape across different operating system platforms. Also a tape system with lower costs than the current methods offer. And, of course, the ability to handle big data. The LTO 5 technology and LTFS addresses these requirements, and you'll see why on the next few slides. So let's now take a look at the next item on our agenda and take a look at what's the buzz about LTFS. Let's go on to the next page and review these key benefits. So on this slide, there's a little overlay of some customer comments that you can see on their excitement over LTFS. I'm shocked. This is exactly what we need. Now I can offer LTO 5 archiving service to clients. LTO 5 technology gives tapeless workflow with tape. Kind of an interesting comment from a large production studio in Japan. Why are they excited? Because, number one, it is easy to use. The benefits are rich. You will see the tape drive letter or icon in the operating system directory. You can then double-click it and then see the folders, subfolders, and files that are on the tape, just like as if it was a hard disk, DVD, or memory stick. So this can improve archiving procedures 10, 20, 30 years from now if you don't know what's on a tape. Simply put it in the drive, and it will tell you. LTFS is compatible across Windows, Mac, and Linux platforms. So if you create a tape on your Linux workstation, that tape can be shared with a Windows or Mac station without concern that it came from a different operating system. LTFS is file, hardware, software, and camera agnostic. It doesn't care where the data came from. It's a file system, and it will store any file. And last but not least, it can reduce your storage costs. And it has a green footprint. A tape cartridge on a shelf or in a library draws no power. So big and small production firms have exclaimed their excitement, as you can see. And we'll give a couple of user stories a little later on in the presentation. So where are we in the agenda? Let's move on to the next chart and take a look now at how does LTFS work. What's the nitty-gritty, and we'll examine that here on the next slide. So the linear tape file system format is a self-describing tape format, and it defines the organization of the data and the metadata on the tape. Files are stored in a hierarchical directory tree structure. Again, it uses the dual partitioning capability that was introduced with LTO Generation 5. And looking at the graphic, the first partition used by LTFS is about 37 gigabytes and stores the index and metadata information. The second partition is just over 1.4 terabytes and is where all the files and content are stored. When the tape is inserted, mounted in a tape drive, the index and information in the first partition is read and copied into the workstation's memory. So from that point on, the index is accessed and updated in the workstation memory for fast performance, so we can keep positioned in the content portion of the tape to quickly access files. As we use the tape, the index is updated in the workstation memory, again for fast performance, eliminating the need to go back to the beginning of the tape into that first partition. Now, to protect the index, LTFS periodically copies the index from the workstation's memory into the content portion, the second partition on the tape. When the tape is done being used, the index is copied one more time at the last position used on tape. The tape is rewound, and then the index is written back into the first partition. Essentially, there are multiple copies of the index on tape for restoring in the unlikely event that the first partition index is not usable, or if a user wants to restore the tape to a previous version, they can do that. For instance, you may want to restore it to the way the tape appeared last Monday by choosing an index from that date. So let's see more on how it works by moving to the next slide. So this screen shows a Linux, the screenshot shows a Linux workstation monitor using an LTO5 tape drive. As you can see, it's called on the upper left side of this page, LTFS Device 1. And it's in the directory tree structure, and its associated content on the right-hand side of the screen in the directory tree with the folders, subfolders, files. Just like any other device on a system, you would see the contents of that particular device. You can drag and drop files to and from the tape, and they can be most any file. We're talking about Essence, videos, audio, but it could be spreadsheets, presentations, drag and drop folders, etc. You'll love the ease of use of this, just like as if you were using a memory stick, for instance. As senior analyst George Crump of Storage Switzerland stated, LTFS could be the most significant development since LTO itself. Now, you can see LTFS in action at the ultrium.com/LTFS web location in a 1-minute video demonstration where the user is using a Linux workstation and calling up some video content that plays right from the tape. So now let's move on to the next slide and examine a little bit more on how this works with the drag and drop function. So again, the accessing files is similar to accessing with a disk or a DVD or a USB thumb drive. You use the operating system browser like Windows Explorer. When you bring up the browser, you will see all of the storage devices on your workstation, including the LTO5 tape drive. You can drill down through subdirectories, open files from your applications on your workstation just like you are used to doing. Now, it is tape, and tape is a sequential device. So the tape media must move to the correct position to begin reading that particular file. On average, it can take 40 to 60 seconds to reach the beginning of a file. But after locating the file, the data can be transferred at up to 140 megabytes per second uncompressed, and that's fast. In fact, that's faster than most disk systems. So let's go on to the next slide and kind of summarize where we're at so far. Okay, with LTFS, you can now easily manage the data on tape using drag and drop, as you can see in the first oval portion of this chart. You can also cut and paste if that's what you prefer to do. You can confidently archive to tape and be assured it is offline and not susceptible to the corruption that can occur with online storage from hackers or software errors or viruses. And you can move those tapes off-site to protect the primary location in case some type of disaster occurs or a natural disaster like a hurricane or a flood and that type of thing. And you can share the tape across platforms. You can take the tape cartridge and hand it to a user that is on a different system. Let's say you created it on a Linux workstation, hand it to a Windows user or to a Mac user, and they can confidently use the tape in their drive with LTFS on their system, excuse me, and not have to worry what application created the data that's on tape or what operating system did it come from. It'd be just like as if you were handing them a giant 1.5 terabyte memory stick. All right. Where are we in the agenda? Let's take a look at the next chart. So, why is LTO tape technology considered to be on the hot list for this decade? But let's take a close look. First of all, tape is on the rise. It's been experiencing some phenomenal growth. In this chart from Santa Clara Consulting, the tape media capacity shipments are shown, and they continue to rise. It shows that 90% of the open systems tape is LTO tape, and it experienced an 8% growth. In fact, LTO5 shipments were up 93% on a year-to-year comparison. So if anyone is asking how is tape doing, well, the answer is quite well, thank you. And why is tape a key part of the infrastructure? Why is this phenomena taking place? Let's take a look here now on the next chart. I know there's a lot on this chart, but we'll walk through it. The first is it's very reliable, and of course high speed and high capacity, and you can see the attributes on the right-hand side. 1.5 terabytes uncompressed per cartridge and 140 megabytes per second uncompressed data transfer rate. To bring that into more perspective, at 50 megabit per second bit rate, that's about 70 hours of essence stored on an LTO5 tape. Now, there's some underlying technology within LTO tape drives and media. In the tape drive, there's a read after write verification process, a separate set of read head elements that read everything that's just been written to the tape and then compares that what is still in the tape's buffer memory to make sure that it is a reliable write. Kind of like a confidence head, if you will. It also uses service servo tracking systems to help ensure precise head and tape alignment. And LTO tape has a better bit error rate than disk. And we'll take a look more on that in just a minute. A tape is cost-effective. It requires very little and at times no energy consumption. We'll look closely at the cost comparisons of LTO5 tape in just a moment. But as a preview, an LTO5 cartridge pricing today is about $50 for a 1.5 terabyte cartridge, which is about 3 to 4 cents per gigabyte. Now, tape is infinitely scalable. What does that mean? If you need more storage, you simply add more cartridges. You don't have to add another tape drive. Just add another cartridge. Tape is removable from the system, protecting it from viruses, hackers, disgruntled employees, and systems errors. And it is portable to off-site locations, again, to protect it from any type of regional disaster. And the portability allows easy sharing with others. In fact, you can easily ship 10 tapes, which would be about 15 terabytes in this example, overnight across the country. Try doing that with a comm line. It would be pretty expensive and take quite a bit of time. And dispelling the myth that tape is difficult, with tape automation now, it is really a simple process. The underlying sophisticated and advanced firmware that's in tape automated libraries makes the process simple. And now with LTFS, it's easier than ever to use. Now, I mentioned how data can get corrupted. Let's examine a case in point on the next chart. So Ben Traynor of Google, in his blog, talked of a system software update that malfunctioned and deleted thousands of email accounts and then replicated itself to the other disk systems, deleting those as well. As he stated, to protect information from these unusual bugs, we also back it up to tape. LTO tape in this case. Since the tapes are offline, they're protected from such software bugs because when a tape is offline, there's no electrical way to get to the tape. It's isolated from the system. So tape as the final resting place is a key best practice. So LTO tape and LTFS are great technologies, but how do the costs compare? So let's take a look. The first chart on the top of this slide shows a comparison of various storage technologies used for essence or video content. It shows gigabyte capacity, then the cost per unit. For instance, in LTO's case, is for an LTO5 cartridge. And the chart shows dollar per gigabyte cost. And then in the last column, the dollar per gigabyte advantage for LTO5 tape, if any. And in each case, there is an advantage. The dollar per gigabyte cost advantage for LTO5 tape is about 3 times that of, let's say, an external hard drive, all the way down to about 350 times the advantage over a P2 solid-state card. Now, in the next study, on the bottom half of this slide, the Clipper Group analyst firm examined total cost of ownership for archiving data over 12 years. The examples that were compared was a SATA disk system compared to an LTO tape library system. They found that the disk system was about 15 times more costly than the LTO5 tape system, taking into all the total costs of ownership, acquisition costs, media costs, floor space, energy, etc. Now, what I find most intriguing is that the energy alone to power and cool the disk system was more than the total cost of the tape system. So let's think about that. If a disk-only vendor were to offer the disk system for free, it would still cost you more than the tape system. So I say, go green, go tape. Now, The Clipper Group study, as well as other white papers, can be downloaded from the LTO program website at ultrium.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bruce.
So let me, I probably clicked too soon. Louder. Oh, there is Christina. I was just going to say, I wanted to turn this over to Christina, and my error on clicking, but thank you, Christina, for fixing that. I'd like to turn it over to Christina now to give us a program update.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Bruce. Yeah, go green. All right, if you're just joining us, we're in the middle of our webinar, Linear Tape File Systems, setting your videos and data free now and for the future. This is Christina Clapp from Digital Video Magazine. I'm here with Bruce Master, who you just heard, who's the Senior Program Manager, IBM Data Protection and Retention Systems, the LTO program, and Lada Loreto, who is the Program Marketing Manager, Nearline Storage, Hewlett-Packard, the LTO program. As always, we welcome your questions. You can submit them at any time throughout this webinar by clicking on the Submit Question tab at the bottom of your screen, and we'll tackle those after Laura's presentation. So let me turn the webinar over to Lada.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Ruth. So let's carry on with the agenda. What LTFS-supported offerings are available? Well, there has been a lot of interest in the market because of all the possibilities that LTFS opens for workflows, backup, and archiving. There has been a growing number of companies that have developed solutions and products based around LTFS with LTO5 technology. There have been software developments, hardware developments, and appliances. These all offer a variety of solutions for video production, post-production, archiving of content, backup. So here is a list of some of these companies: One Beyond, Archiving, Cache, Crossroads, Digital Media Logics, 4A, Panasonic, SGL, Stress DNA, Thought Equity, Tollis Group, and we have another company that has recently joined this list, which is Zen Data. Most of these companies are focused on the media and entertainment market in particular, but in most cases, these solutions can be taken to any market that has great need for archiving and long-term data retention. So let's take a look at 3 user stories and how LTO with LTFS has benefited their businesses. The first one is the Thought Equity Motion. These are a cloud service provider for video storage with several global locations. They were facing growth of around 100 terabytes of data per month, and they implemented LTFS-enabled libraries behind the cloud. Their CTO said that LTO and LTFS is a real game changer. One particular project they are developing at the moment is converting the Netherlands historical video archive to LTFS tapes. Another user that has implemented LTFS is Photochem. Photochem is a film lab and post-production facility based in Burbank, California. They use LTFS for archive reality TV shows like X Factor, American Idol, Dancing with the Stars. They used to archive content on XD-CAM discs, but after the shortage and the high price of these discs following the Japanese tsunami, they needed to find another solution for their archives. So with LTO5 and LTFS, they were able to store 100 XD-CAM discs in a single LTO5 tape. So these allowed them also to reuse the XD-CAM discs, and the savings were very big, with savings in space, savings in costs, and all of that in a format that is self-describing. and very inexpensive. And so they were able also to do 2 copies of their data, to put one of the copies for offsite in a different location for disaster recovery. Our third user story is BAM TV. This is a San Francisco-based company that does production, post-production, and distribution of video for independent musicians. They had huge storage needs and found that SAN storage for archiving soon becomes very expensive, and they kept filling it up, and it's just adding more and more disks to the solution. They also tried using removable hard drives, but they found that these were fragile and unreliable and quite expensive. So their solution was LTFS, and with this they reduced their costs by a quarter. They now can scale very easily. If they need more capacity for storage, they just add more cartridges to the whole solution. And they can also do very inexpensive copies of data for offsite archive, as they are in San Francisco. It's an earthquake-prone region, so they thought that an offsite safety copy was very important for their business. In a recent tape summit, Jamie Morgenstern, the director of operation, was a guest speaker. And there he was asked by a storage analyst about the failure rate of their tape solution. And he answered that LTO5 technology is very reliable, and they have been using it now for over a year. They have used over 60 tapes, and they had 0 failures. So this gives you an idea of how reliable this technology is. So what the experts are saying? Well, LTFS, since its release, has attracted a lot of interest on the press and analysts. It has made the use of tape so much simpler that we are seeing tape now being quoted as one of the hottest storage technologies. Storage Magazine quoted LTFS and LTO5 technology as one of the 6 hottest storage technology for 2012. InfoStore predicts that the growth of tape usage as one of its 6 storage trends to watch in 2012. So there are many more articles. You can find these at Altrin.com website. We have their collection of articles that have been published on the press and magazines, and you can go there and review all of this. So how do I start using LTFS? Well, it's very simple. You just get a standalone tape drive and an LTO5 cartridge. You download the LTFS software, the drivers, from the drive vendor's website. And once this is all installed, your operating system will now recognize the tape drive as part of the system, as another storage device in the system, and then you can format and mount the LTO5 cartridge using the LTFS. And from there on, you can just drag and drop, cut and paste, browse directory trees, all the same way as you will do with a USB stick in a directory tree kind of structure. And if you are attending NAB, we will be there on the week of the 16th of April, and we will have live LTFS demos in our booth, so you're welcome to come around and have a look. We will be demonstrating intercompatibility with different operating systems and different hardware, and we will be doing presentations similar to this at regular intervals at our mini theater. So if you are going with your colleagues that haven't been able to attend this webinar, you're welcome to come and sit in one of our presentations. And we are also having two sessions where we are going to showcase LTFS. These two sessions are on the Tuesday and on the Wednesday, and we will have all the vendors that I went through the list earlier presenting their LTFS solutions. So they will be split in two sessions, and you can see all their LTFS solutions.
Okay.
So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll pass it on to Christina.
Oh, thanks so much, Laura.
Q&A. Thank
All
you.
right. So let's get to the questions, of which we have quite a few. Mark Pastor, who is the Strategic Business Manager, Disk and Automation Quantum, the LTO program, will be joining us for tackling the questions as well. So as a reminder, if you haven't yet submitted your questions, you can do so by clicking on the Submit Question tab at the bottom of your screen. So let's get started. For Laura, can LTFS cartridges be interchanged between hardware vendors, operating systems, and or applications?
Yes, of course they can be interchanged, and this is one of the main advantages of LTFS, and of course one of the main advantages of the LTO technology. The LTO Ultron is an open standard specification and is designed exactly for this to be open and to be interchangeable between compliant manufacturers and compliant tape cartridges media. LTFS builds on top of these open standards for the LTO technology, and so allows individual files to be read or written to a compliant tape drive, their cartridges, and these can be supported in different versions of operating systems without the need for a third-party backup of archiving application to read or write. So, for example, you can write data on an LTFS cartridge on a LTO5, say, for example, an HP drive that is using a Linux environment. You can take that cartridge and give it to somebody that is using, for example, an LTO5 quantum drive in a Mac environment, and they will be able to read that tape with no problems. You can then take that tape and give it to somebody that is working with an LTO5 from IBM under a Windows environment, and the same. There is no problem. You can just go and see the contents and read and write to it. So data mobility across different platforms is not an issue, and there is no need for all the users to have the same hardware, to have the same software, to have the same backup, archive application. It's all open, and it's all interchangeable, and it's all shareable.
This is good. Okay, let's see. Let's head over to Mark. For LTFS to work, is a special partitioning cartridge required?
The answer is for LTFS, that is available for LTO5 cartridges because the capability to format for multiple partitions was introduced with the LTO5 specification. So any LTO5 cartridge will work, and it is not a special LTO5 cartridge, if I understand the question correctly. So a cartridge can be formatted with the dual partitions, or it can be formatted, for standard use.
Got it.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. And on to Bruce. How long does it take to search for a file?
Well, thanks for the question, Christina. It depends on the vendor's LTO5 tape drive search speed characteristics, but typically the average search is about 40 to 60 seconds for a mounted cartridge in the drive.
Okay. Next, let's go to Mark. Would a person typically edit on the tape or on disk?
That's a great question, and we hear that once in a while. But because of the nature of tape, generally we would recommend that you move the file or copy the file from tape to disk and do all of your editing there, just because, as I said, the nature of those two technologies makes disk a lot more responsive for editing, and that's pretty much the practice that I think people are generally moving towards. So it's good to copy the file from tape, move it to disk, do all of your editing, and when you're done with that, copy it back to tape.
Got it. Keeping it safe.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So let's go over to Lada. When would LTO5 tape using LTFS be better for processing big data than flash memory?
So we don't recommend to process data directly on the tape. We always say you take your data and put it on your disk, and then you process, edit, do whatever you want with that data, and then put it back on tape. So that is how we will recommend the use of tape. If you are thinking about archiving and put it on tape that data away, then always use tape with LTFS. Is always much better than, well, for all the reasons we have gone through the whole presentation, it's better to use tape than flash memory.
Okay, over to Bruce. Is the LTFS software vendor independent?
Okay, is the LTFS software vendor independent? Not quite sure what the meaning is of the question, but I think it means can it be used across the vendors that have shown that they develop products that are based on LTFS? The cartridge that's created from an LTFS compliant application is self-describing. So that cartridge could be removed, let's say, from one of the systems that are shown in that list of developers, and taken to a standalone drive or taken to another system and used. That's the general specification use of the technology. So if they mean can you cross vendors or cross platforms,
right.
Yes, you can.
Okay. All right, let's head over to Mark. What is the rated MTBF of the drives and tapes? What is the life expectancy of the tape for long-term archive?
Okay, so two separate questions there. The MTBF is really a drive manufacturer specification, and so you'll have to look to each vendor of drives to know how they specify their drive, and you may see some differences there. In terms of, I think the second part related to the data longevity on the media, and generally there's, I think most media manufacturers are speccing about 30 years now for that capability. So, Bruce, did you have some specific add to that on the MTBF?
Yeah, let me just add to that I think currently the drive vendors are all pretty much similar in the drive mean time between failure hours, which is 250,000. You're right, it is an independent specification by each vendor, but they happen to be in that same area of about 250,000 mean time between failure hours.
That's around 27 years, I think.
All right. This ties a little bit into your presentation, Lada. What other commercial businesses can take advantage of LTFS besides the video industry?
Yes. So LTFS was first designed for the media and entertainment market because of their move to file-based workflows and the need for all these digital archives. But really, there's much more than just media and entertainment. You can use LTFS. We recommend it for rich media where files are big and they take a lot of space. So we recommend LTFS for digital surveillance, where they also have rich media data, big files, big data, medical imaging, where now everything has gone digitalized. X-rays are all digital, MRI, they are all creating huge amounts of data and need to be kept for regulatory purposes for many, many years. For architectural drawings, for example, behind the cloud, we are seeing now a lot of introduction of tape, and of course LTFS is allowing quicker access to data behind the cloud. For life science, digging exploitations, for petrol diggings, where they need to they keep all that data, because in the future there is possibility that new techniques, new algorithms come out that they can analyze all this data in a different way, and so they don't need to go back and dig again in the same spot to recreate that data. They save it, archive it, and later on in the future they probably reuse all that data. So many different uses for LTFS.
Okay, this ties into another question. You answered a lot of it, which is, can this be used general purpose backup and archiving? But the second part of this question is there any caveat?
No, it's just we wouldn't recommend use LTFS for lots of very little files. We wouldn't recommend LTFS for editing those files online on tape. But it's designed and it's ideal for big files, for data that needs to rest and put away in archiving. And of course, it has been for many years for backup purposes. So we still recommend tape for your backup.
Yeah, let me add to that, Lada. This is probably the first half of the question. Can it be used for general purpose backup?
Right.
One of the firms that Lada mentioned that have developed an offering with LTFS is Thales Group with Brew Backup for Mac systems, and particularly for media and entertainment system Essence-type files. So there's an example of a general-purpose backup application, although targeted for this group, giving users an option to create a Brew Backup formatted tape or an LTFS formatted tape using the Brew Backup software. A small firm that may just need 1 or 2 or 3 drives could use this just for general backup, just to make sure that they've got a safe copy of data on tape and move that to a vault, let's say, to protect it from fire or whatever, by just drag and dropping files from their hard drive, just like they might do today onto a thumb drive.
Right.
The caveat part is if they're going to do enterprise-wide backup to tape, and they would normally be using Net Backup or Tivoli Storage Manager or Data Protector or whatever their typical application is. Those applications provide more media management, like where is a cartridge, where did it move to, that type of thing. And the LTFS is just the basic file system, just like your file system with Windows or Linux, and when you're using a thumb drive or removable hard drive, it's just the file system. It's not the media manager. So you can track that yourself on where you move a cartridge, or use an application that provides that function and still creates an LTFS tape like Brew Backup, for instance.
Okay, so
I hope that makes sense.
It does. Seem to be a lot of questions in the same vein, but slightly different. So I'm going to keep at it on this. So this question says, the examples from media and entertainment vertical industries are very good. And can you talk a little bit about horizontal uses of LTFS with LTO5, such as e-discovery?
Yeah. I think Laura touched on that quite a bit, although maybe not specifically the e-discovery topic. But just as LTFS is really just a format for storing your data, I think it makes itself readily available for any application to be able to interrogate the files, and it may facilitate software having better access to the data by supporting directory structure. So I think that's application specific, and I don't think there's anything about LTFS that harms that, and it may even be helpful for those types of approaches.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll add to that, Mark, that this is under that term, I think, of media management, which can include the searching capability on the metadata. And LTFS allows the input of extended attributes or additional metadata. For instance, for media entertainment, you might want to input who the directors are for different projects, or what the location was, or what more on the subject matter for particular projects. So later on, when you want to search to find, let's say, all of the projects that were done by a particular director, you could. And LTFS allows the input of that data into the first partition on the cartridge, so that you can then later on use media management tools to do that searching. And a lot of these media management tools are offered by the firms, again, that were on those couple of slides that Lara went through, like SGL and Storage DNA and others that are on there.
Right. Okay, but Bruce, let me address another question to you. Is it possible to apply LTFS technology to LTO4? And if not, why not?
Okay, good question, because there's a lot of LTO4 users out there, and thank you all for your patronage. However, LTFS requires the ability to have two partitions, and this dual partitioning capability has just been introduced with LTO5. And then moving forward, as our roadmap shows, this partitioning capability will continue with each generation moving forward, 6, 7, 8, and beyond. But it didn't start until 5, so no. 4 doesn't have the capability to do partitioning. Either does 3, either does 2, either does 1. So if you want to use LTFS with LTO technology, you need to have LTO5 tape drives and LTO5 tape cartridges.
Okay. All right. Let's head over to Lada for can an LTFS tape be encrypted?
Yes. So the LTFS is just a operating system level type of file system. If you send files encrypted, then they will be recorded encrypted. Now the hardware has the tape drives have hardware embedded in the hardware, and you can enable that to write files going to LTFS. So as long as you are able to enable the encryption, the tape drive will write cartridges encrypted.
Okay. Let's see. Let's get over to Mark. What do I do if I have a file larger than 1.5 terabytes? Can LTFS span tapes?
So the LTFS format as defined is really defined so that a tape cartridge can be its own self-describing file system. And for that reason, it does not have the ability to have data span within a cartridge based on the format itself. However, people are doing this, and applications can take care of taking files and appropriately splitting them so that you still have a self-describing file system on an individual cartridge, and the application would know how to split and how to recover files that are split and span across multiple cartridges. Mm-hmm. So applications would take care of that.
All right. So let's see. Oh boy, do we have it's good. we have many questions. Okay, LTFS encrypted. All right. Has LTFS been embraced by the major archive application providers? For example, FPD, SGL, MassTech, etc.
Well, I'll mention again, this is Bruce, that as Laura presented those couple of charts, it's been SGL is mentioned in this question. They are on that list, as well as many others. The list has been growing over this last year quite rapidly. I think last year when we presented LTFS at about this time, there was 5 or 6 on the list. Now there's a dozen on the list, so it's continually growing, and there's many offerings available today, as you can see.
Okay, and let's go over to Lotta. When is LTO 6 generally available?
Right. So LTO 6 is really up to each vendor when it's released. The LTO program, we look after the technology, the specs of the technology, and then each vendor independently goes and builds the tape drive. So it's independent for each vendor when LTO 6 will be available. But having said that, if history repeats, we have seen every couple of years or over just a couple of years new generations coming up. So we probably will be looking at sometime the end of the year or beginning of 2013. We probably will see the first LTO 6 offerings from the different vendors.
Got it. All right, let's head over to Bruce. How do users add metadata information about the files stored? For example, the directors of the film. Is that through an external M&E application?
Well, it can be input directly into LTFS, but typically most users will probably acquire an application that allows them to enter those and then do the searching on it. So, for instance, the SGL application, Storage DNA, the One Beyond application or offering, they allow you to enter right into their software these additional metadata attributes, and then that software puts it right into LTFS. You could do it on your own, but I would think most users are going to adapt an application to do it and then search on it.
Okay. Bruce, you touched on this in your presentation, but maybe talk a little bit about how this can be used for daily backup and disaster recovery for a SAN mainframe or for a SAN server.
Could you say that one more time? Sorry, I didn't quite follow it. You broke up a little bit.
Sure. Talk a little bit about how this can be used for daily backup and then also for disaster recovery.
Okay. Well, again, LTFS is a file system. So it doesn't do media management like tracking where cartridges are.
Right.
If they've moved off-site. A user would need to track that themselves or acquire an application that tracks that for them and creates LTFS tapes. But if you wanted to use it in its basic form, just like as if it was a memory stick, for instance, you could drag and drop files to the cartridge and then take that cartridge and put it in a safe place for disaster recovery in case the files that are on your hard disk became unrecoverable for some reason. You could take that tape, bring it back, put it into the drive, see exactly what's on it, and find the folders or files that you're looking for on the tape, and then drag and drop those back to your new hard drive. Let's say you had to replace the hard drive, and you would be able to recover. So for backup, disaster recovery, or even long-term archive, you could have it just in its basic form and use it. You just need to track what's on where those tapes are yourself, as far as are they on a shelf here, or did I move them to a vault, or are they in my trunk or my closet at home?
Right, exactly.
We have a user, I think, that Lotta went through the BAM TV example. And BAM TV has been using standalone drives, but they're now over 60 tape cartridges. And they're now going to implement a tape library, of which there are offerings available for tape libraries that allow the use of LTFS formatted tape in the library with multiple drives. And they're offered by us on this call, and as well as others that are on that list of developers.
Perfect.
And the cartridges for BAM TV now, since they've got so many that they're tracking, they're going to implement a tape library and use application software to track that. I think they're using Storage DNA.
All right, that actually answers one of our questions. Okay, let's move on. Lada, how does LTFS driver support drive compression? If so, how does it impact capacities of metadata and data partitions?
Right. Yes. So the tape drive itself, the hardware, has a lossless compression. So that compression engine is always switched on by default. Now, rich media content normally doesn't compress. So by default, it will not compress if it cannot get any better compression than one-to-one. It will never span the data. It will leave it as a one-to-one data. So, yes, the drive has compression, is always on. For rich media data, probably it will not do anything to the data. But if it can compress, we normally quote 2-to-1 compression. So the 1.5 terabyte will become 5 terabytes in a single cartridge. Sorry, I don't know if I addressed all your questions.
I think I did it. And we're out of time. Let me do one last question, and then we'll put up our slide for contact information if people have additional questions. Just to be sure I understand, let's do this for Bruce. Just to be sure I understand, I can drag files and folders directly from the OS file folder and drop them onto the tape with no need for special software.
That is correct, exactly correct. Just like, again, if it was a memory stick. So when you put the tape into the tape drive, let's say there's nothing on the tape yet, you format it with LTFS, which just takes a minute. Now that that cartridge has two partitions on it, it will appear in the directory tree structure. You'll see the tape drive as a drive letter in your directory tree along with all the other storage devices on your workstation or server. When you double-click it, since it's empty, you won't see any folders or files yet. Then you can go, for instance, to your hard drive and drag a folder or multiple folders or multiple files over and drop them onto the tape icon, and they will get copied just like they are onto the tape now. And now you will see underneath that tape drive letter those same folders and subfolders and files that you just dragged over or copy and pasted over. So you certainly can do it. That is exactly right. That question is correct. And I also want to say, if you want copies of this presentation, it will be loaded onto the ultrium.com website by the end of this week.
Beautiful. And the actual entire webinar will be archived on creativeplanetnetwork.com. You'll be happy to know that the person asking the question, who was wanting to make sure about the dragging files and folders, he said, "Wow."
Well, let me add to that, Christina. If you want to see it live in action, as Lotta mentioned in this presentation, we will be at NAB, and we will be doing live demos at our booth. We'll be giving presentations at our booth, and we'll have those two breakout sessions, too, where all the other vendors will be presenting along with us.
Perfect. Hope to see everyone there. All right, so I guess we should wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have a moment before you leave, you'll see an exit poll on your screen. If you want to complete those questions, we'd very much appreciate it. As Bruce just said, you can download the presentation. It's at the Ultrium site. The archived entire webinar, it will be online at creativeplanetnetwork.com. If you have any questions, I think my contact information should be up, as should everyone else's. And yes, there we go. And thank you so much to our presenters. And everyone, have a great day.